The rain has been speaking to the northern windows for a long time now. Not loudly, just a steady, patient sound against the glass, soft enough that you could almost mistake it for silence if you were not listening. Inside, a single lamp keeps a small circle of warm light on a wooden table. Beyond that circle, the room holds its gentle dark. The day world has already gone home. The path along the shore is empty of hurry, and the only visitors left are the ones who came here to rest. You do not have to do anything here. You do not have to remember the day. If your eyes want to close, they may. I will speak slowly. The rain will continue, and nothing urgent will be asked of you tonight. This is a quiet place for quiet stories. Soft lore from a northern coast, told the way someone might tell it if they were sitting across from you with a cup gone cold, and no need to finish it. There will be no sudden turns, no demand that you stay alert. Only rain, wood, a warm lamp, and a voice that does not mind if you drift away in the middle of a sentence. So settle if you can. Let your shoulders drop. Let the next breath be a little longer than the last. We are already inside. The sea, if it is near, is only company, weather, not work. So, settle if you can. Let your shoulders drop. Let the next breath be a little longer than the last. We are already inside. The sea, if it is near, is only company, weather, not work. If you look around, or if you only imagine looking around, you will notice how much of a northern room is made for stillness after dark. Thick timber or stone that does not argue with the weather. A floor that has learned the weight of ordinary steps. A window that gathers rain and softens the night beyond it, the way a hand cups water and does not spill it. The air smells faintly of wood smoke settled into cloth, and the clean salt that arrives even when the windows are closed. It is not a sharp smell. It is the kind that belongs to rooms kept carefully for years. Somewhere outside, or far off in the building's memory, water moves against a quay or a shore with a hush too distant to measure. Outside, the rain draws thin silver lines down the glass. The night beyond is deep blue-black, soft at the edges, more like a blanket than a stage. If there are harbour lights, they are only small gold points, blurred by water, with no demand that you read them. Inside, the lamp on the table is the true sun of this small world. Its light is warm and limited, which is a kindness. Unlimited light asks too much of the eyes. A small circle is enough. There may be a wool coat on a peg by the door, left by someone who meant to return, and then decided the rain was a better companion. There may be a closed book of charts that will not be needed tonight. There may be a cup gone cold beside the lamp, ordinary, unfinished, forgiven. Soft evidence that people have been gentle here. If your mind is still carrying the noise of the day, you can set it down on the table beside the lamp. You do not have to organize it. You do not have to solve it. This room has held heavier weather than one ordinary evening, and it is still standing. Notice, too, how little the room asks of your face. No one is waiting for your reaction. No screen is brightening to pull you forward. The only flicker is the lamp, and even that is steady enough to trust. In a world that often rewards alertness, this is a small permission slip written in amber light. You may become less available now. The walls are cool if you imagine touching them, not cold enough to startle. Cool the way wood and stone are cool, patient, older than your lists, willing to hold the night without complaint. The rain continues its long letter on the glass. You do not need to answer it. Listening is enough.
Somewhere a pipe or a timber may tick once, and then think better of it. These are not interruptions. They are proof that the building is a living shelter, warming itself the way a body does in sleep, automatically, without drama. Listen again to the rain. It has not changed its mind. It will keep its steady conversation with the glass while we stay. And if, far beyond the walls, the soft presence of the northern sea breathes against the shore, let it be only company, sound, not a task, a large dark friend that does not need you to keep watch. There is a story told about this coast, not as a warning, and not as a claim that must be proven, only as something the night seems willing to hold. It is said that certain coats were folded like fog, not roughly, not in a hurry, folded the way evening fog folds itself into a harbour, quietly, completely, with a patience that does not ask for applause. In the soft tellings, people of the sea, called by many names in many villages, kept a second skin or a precious coat, and when they came ashore for a while, they set it down with care. The coat was not a trap in these versions. It was a belonging treated gently, a home that could rest beside a chair without becoming a crisis. People who tell the tale sometimes say the fabric looked like mist made solid, or like the colour of water just before full dark. Others say it looked only like good wool, ordinary until you understood what it meant to the person who owned it. Either way, the important motion was the folding. Hands that knew how to put something precious away without crushing it. Hands that trusted the room. In one telling, a traveller once saw such a coat folded on a wooden chair near a rainy window, and felt a strange relief, not because they needed rescuing, but because the care in the folds meant the night still had room for tenderness. Predictable gentleness is a kind of lullaby for the mind. It says, the next moment will resemble this one. You may soften. If this were a different kind of story, someone might invent a chase, a theft, a punishment from the deep. Here, we can call it a habit of belonging made soft enough for sleep. The coat stays folded because someone chose, over and over, to treat what they loved as something that deserves a quiet place. You can pretend, if you like, that such a coat rests somewhere in this room now, not as a mystery to solve, only as a shape of calm. You do not need to unfold it. Knowing it could be there is already a kind of company, like knowing a blanket is at the foot of the bed, even when you are not cold. If this were a different kind of story, someone might invent a chase, a theft, a punishment from the deep. Here, we can call it a habit of belonging made soft enough for sleep. The coat stays folded because
because someone chose, over and over, to treat what they loved as something that deserves a quiet place. You can pretend, if you like, that such a coat rests somewhere in this room now, not as a mystery to solve, only as a shape of calm. You do not need to unfold it. Knowing it could be there is already a kind of company, like knowing a blanket is at the foot of the bed, even when you are not cold. There is another turn to the story, quieter than the first. It says that the folding was never meant to impress anyone. It was simply the work of ending a day without drama. Some tellers, in these versions, speak of the coat the way gardeners speak of soil, not because it answers in words, but because care sounds better when it is spoken softly. A version of the tale mentions a shelf near the door, where folk seemed to collect even indoors, as if the weather had been invited in, and then asked politely to rest. On that shelf, or on the chair beneath the window, the coat waited. No one in the soft tellings was required to choose forever between sea and shore in a single night. The story allowed temporary homes, temporary stillness, a body allowed to be only one place at a time. Some people, hearing this, imagine mist hanging low over black water, silver where the rain catches it. Others imagine only rain on glass, and a warmth that does not need to prove itself. Whether those details are true does not matter much. Sleep does not require footnotes. It requires a path that does not jab the nerves. And if, somewhere in the lore of this coast, a coat is still practicing its one gentle trick, becoming a quiet rectangle of belonging, then it is doing what we are doing now, returning, again and again, to emotions soft enough to rest beside. And if, somewhere in the lore of this coast, a coat is still practicing its one gentle trick, becoming a quiet rectangle of belonging, then it is doing what we are doing now, returning again and again to emotions soft enough to rest beside. Let that story rest for a moment. You can keep it if it feels warm in your hands. You can set it down if your mind has already begun to soften around the edges. Either way, return with me to the room as it is. The lamp is still making its small gold island on the table. The rain is still writing the same long letter on the glass. The walls have not moved. They do not need to. Movement is not the only proof that something is alive. Patience is another. If your eyes have closed, keep them closed. If they are half open, that is fine too. There is no test at the end of this hour. There is only the continuing rain and the next soft story waiting near the water, among boats that have finished their day and left their worries on the shore. You do not have to keep watch tonight. Something careful was folded before you arrived. That is enough.
Near the edge of the harbour, past the first step out from the weather, before the dark water begins its longer thought, there is a place where boats rest after hours, or so the second story says. Some nights, if you stand there now in imagination, you can almost invent the quiet of them. Hulls dark and calm, ropes soft with rain. No engine of urgency, no cargo of unfinished lists. The tale belongs to people who understood that not every kindness needs to be the size of a coast. The great sea has its work. The small boats have
days they are left for the night, not abandoned, only finished. And those who walk past, under a hood or an umbrella, or only the patient rain, sometimes say the boats look empty of worry. Empty, in this telling, is not a lack. It is a clearance. Tomorrow's weather can wait. Tomorrow's tasks can wait on a nail by a door. Tonight, the boats hold only themselves, and a little rainwater that does not mind being there, and the soft slap of water that is not a warning. It was not a rule written in large letters. It was a habit. Leave the day in the day. Coil what can be coiled. Cover what needs covering. Then go inside where a lamp makes a circle the size of 2 open hands. The boats do not need your eyes to stay afloat in the dark. They have done this many nights. They know how to rest.
People who saw them did not always stop. Sometimes seeing was enough. They would stand under an overhang, shake rain from their sleeves, and feel their breath lengthen because the harbour had decided for a few hours not to ask anything of them. That is a quiet kind of magic, not the kind that rearranges storms, the kind that rearranges hurry into something smaller. In one version of the tale, a child once asked why the boats looked so peaceful. An elder answered without making a speech of it, because no one has loaded them with tomorrow yet. In another version, there is no child and no elder, only the boats and the rain and the simple fact of work that has been allowed to end. What matters is not the exact quay or the exact year. What matters is the decision repeated until it became part of the harbour's weather. Stop, not for applause, not for legend, for the possibility of one tired person walking home with empty hands. What matters is not the exact quay or the exact year. What matters is the decision, repeated until it became part of the harbour's weather. Stop, not for applause, not for legend, for the possibility of one tired person walking home with empty hands. Of course, stories grow soft edges when told for years. Some say a note was left once on a post near the water, on a night of especially patient rain. A few words about the nearest dry place to wait, written in a hand that did not try to be elegant. Some say later generations continued the habit of looking at the boats and feeling relief without knowing the first reason. The way people inherit a recipe and keep making it because the house smells right when they do. If you want a moral, it can be simple. You do not need to carry every list into the dark. A boat can be empty of worry and still be complete. A mind can set down its cargo and still be itself in the morning. And if no one walks the quay tonight, the boats still do their work for the person who left them carefully. Rest, even unobserved, steadies the room. Rest steadies the water's edge. So let the harbour glow in your mind for a moment. Small lights blurred by rain, hulls dark and calm, ropes like soft lines drawn by a patient hand. Then walk with me, if you like, away from the water and back toward the deeper quiet of the room, where the table lamp continues its own soft duty. The two kinds of care do not compete. One greets the night outside, one keeps company inside. Between them, a person can cross from the weather into rest. Above the water, if fog is still practicing its slow fold over the black surface, it does not mind the smaller lamp indoors. Care has room for more than one scale,
can imagine the door closed gently, not locked against the world in anger, only closed the way a book is closed when the chapter is enough for tonight. The rain remains outside, still speaking. You remain inside, still allowed. If a thought arrives about unfinished lists, let it hang its coat on the peg beside the wall and wait. The peg is patient. The list can stay unfinished. The boats in the story never asked anyone to earn the night first. If you are still with me, even softly, we can take a slow walk to the window. There is no place you must reach in a hurry. The walk itself can be a resting place if we do it in imagination only, one quiet step at a time. Underfoot, the floor is smooth where ordinary days have travelled the same path from table to glass. Your steps, if you invent them, can be slower than usual. There is no one behind you asking you to hurry. The sill, if there is a sill, is cool and steady under a hand that can rest lightly. At the glass, the rain becomes a closer companion, still patient, still writing its silver lines. That is a lovely balance. Weather outside, shelter around you, voice nearby. Many of the best nights in a life are made of exactly that triangle. You might pause where the pane shows only soft night and water-beaded glass, and perhaps a few soft gold points from the harbour. You do not need to see a horizon. Knowing the night is large is enough. Knowing you are not required to manage it is better. The coast was shaped by people who kept simple work and did it without drama. You can borrow that posture now. Hold one simple task. Breathe. If you imagine a short step farther, only in the mind, toward a covered place near the water, you may hear the soft sound of boats at rest, empty of worry, finished for the night. Then turn back. Returning is part of the comfort. In sleep stories, we do not leave you on long, empty walks. We bring you home to the same chair, the same circle of gold, the same patient weather. On the way back, you may pass the peg with the wool coat. You may pass the place where a coat in a story was folded like fog. You may pass the closed book of charts that does not need another line tonight. Sit again if you like. The chair remembers how to hold a person who has set down their day. Let your hands rest open or closed. Both are correct. Let your jaw soften by a single degree. That degree is enough to begin.
The stories can settle now, the way rain settles into its rhythm when no one is measuring it, not as neglect, but as peace. The coat folded like fog, the boats empty of worry. You can keep them as you keep a smooth stone from a quiet shore, not because you must explain them, but because they feel steady in the pocket of the mind. Around you, the northern room continues its night work of simply existing. Walls hold, windows receive the rain. The lamp spends its light carefully. None of these things demand applause. They are reliable in the way sleep wants the world to be reliable. No sudden rearrangements, no tests, no raised voices. If your thoughts still wander, you do not have to catch them. Let them walk the quay without you. They will tire eventually and find a corner. You can stay here, in the warm circle, breathing at the pace of rain. There is nothing you failed to finish by resting. There is nothing you must earn before the next breath. The day can remain outside, with its wet path and unfinished lists. This room was made for the opposite of urgency,
have remembered. You are allowed to wake later with only the feeling of rain remaining, and perhaps a soft fold of fog that means nothing more urgent than the night was kept, and so were you.